listen and practice. Leo often felt a knot in his stomach whenever he needed to speak English. He understood grammar rules perfectly and had a decent vocabulary, yet actual conversations were a daunting challenge. He yearned for fluency, to express his thoughts effortlessly without the constant internal translation. He knew he needed a radical change, a new approach to conquer his speaking anxiety and truly master the language. His traditional study methods, mostly focused on textbooks and rote memorization, had brought him to a plateau. He could read complex articles and write coherent essays, but his spoken English remained stiff and unnatural. This growing frustration fueled his determination to find an effective strategy that would genuinely make him a confident speaker. He was ready for a different path. One day, while browsing online forums, he stumbled upon a community dedicated to English fluency. People shared various techniques and personal success stories. The recurring theme was simple yet profound: listen and practice. This phrase resonated with him, suggesting a more active and immersive way to engage with the language, rather than just passively absorbing information. Leo realized that merely knowing words wasn't enough. He needed to activate them, to make them part of his living, breathing communication. He decided to embark on a new journey, a comprehensive English study plan for talking. This wasn't just about memorizing phrases, it was about building a robust foundation for genuine, spontaneous conversation. His resolve strengthened daily. He understood why you should practice speaking fundamentally. It wasn't just about showing off skills, it was about internalizing patterns, developing muscle memory for his tongue and vocal cords. Without active practice, all the theoretical knowledge would remain dormant, trapped in his mind, unable to flow freely into coherent spoken sentences. Practice was clearly the missing link. He began by immersing himself in English audio content. Podcasts, interviews, and documentaries became his constant companions. He didn't just listen passively, he paid close attention to pronunciation, intonation, and natural speech rhythms. This active listening was crucial for him to absorb the nuances of native speakers and prepare his ears for real conversations. Every morning, he dedicated time to mimic what he heard. He would pause recordings and repeat sentences, focusing on matching the speaker's accent and flow. This English talking practice felt awkward at first, but with each repetition, his tongue felt more comfortable forming unfamiliar sounds. He started to feel a subtle shift in his speaking ability. Then came the day he sought out speaking partners online. Terrified initially, he pushed through the apprehension. His first few conversations were halting, filled with pauses and stammering. Yet, he persevered, remembering the advice: "Let me tell you talking tips, focus on conveying meaning, not perfection." This mindset shift was incredibly liberating for him. He learned to embrace mistakes as stepping stones, not roadblocks. Each awkward sentence was a lesson. He received valuable feedback from patient native speakers, which helped him refine his pronunciation and choose more appropriate vocabulary. He realized that true learning occurred outside his comfort zone, in the messy, imperfect reality of conversation. The best way to learn English, he discovered, wasn't a single method but a blend of consistent exposure and active production. It was about creating an environment where English was not just a subject but a living, breathing part of his daily routine. This holistic approach started yielding noticeable improvements in his overall fluency. He started recording himself speaking, a practice that initially made him cringe. Listening back, he could identify his own common errors and areas needing improvement. This self-assessment became a powerful tool, allowing him to track his progress and pinpoint specific sounds or grammatical structures that required more attention and dedicated practice sessions. Furthermore, he understood why reading is important. Reading wasn't just for vocabulary expansion, it introduced him to complex sentence structures and different writing styles, which in turn influenced his spoken expression. He saw how authors crafted compelling narratives, and he began to unconsciously adopt these patterns in his own verbal communication. He started reading diverse materials, news articles, blogs, and fiction. He didn't just skim for understanding, he paid attention to how sentences were constructed, how ideas flowed logically. This active reading reinforced his understanding of English grammar and syntax in a natural, contextualized way, making it less abstract and more applicable. A significant turning point arrived when he decided to learn English through stories. He had always enjoyed narratives, and applying this interest to language learning felt like a revelation. Stories offered context, emotion, and relatable situations, making new vocabulary and phrases much easier to remember and apply naturally in his conversations. He sought out audiobooks and short stories, listening intently and then recounting the plots in his own words. This practice of summarizing helped him articulate ideas clearly and concisely. It was a delightful way to combine listening, comprehension, and speaking, transforming what once felt like tedious study into an engaging and enjoyable activity for him. One particular very interesting story about a young traveler's adventures captivated him. He listened to it repeatedly, absorbing every detail, every nuance of the narrator's voice. This story became a personal project, pushing him to dissect its structure and vocabulary, greatly enhancing his understanding of English narrative flow and expression. He then used this compelling narrative as the basis for his English talking practice. He would retell chapters to himself, imagining he was speaking to a live audience. This imaginative role-playing fostered creativity and helped him overcome the internal pressure of sounding perfect. He was truly enjoying the process, which made all the difference. He also paid close attention to how other people talk in English. He observed their body language, their pauses, and their use of filler words. This wasn't about mimicking accents perfectly but understanding the natural rhythm and flow of real-life conversations, making his own speech sound more authentic and less robotic over time. He learned that native speakers rarely used perfectly grammatical sentences all the time. There were hesitations, self-corrections, and informal expressions. This realization freed him from the pressure of absolute perfection and allowed him to embrace a more natural, conversational style, which greatly boosted his confidence during interactions. Leo started participating in online discussion groups, sharing his thoughts on various topics. The constant exposure to different voices and opinions further enriched his understanding of idiomatic expressions and cultural nuances. His active engagement proved invaluable for transforming his theoretical knowledge into practical communication skills daily. He focused on specific talking tips he encountered, speaking slowly at first, taking deep breaths, and not being afraid to ask for clarification. These small adjustments had a profound impact on his clarity and confidence. He realized that effective communication wasn't just about vocabulary but also about deliberate delivery and active listening. He practiced intonation by repeating sentences with different emotional inflections. He discovered how a slight change in tone could completely alter the meaning of a phrase. This awareness of prosody added depth and authenticity to his spoken English, making him sound much more expressive and engaging during conversations. Leo also adopted the habit of shadowing, listening to a speaker and trying to speak along with them simultaneously. This intensive English talking practice rapidly improved his pronunciation and rhythm. It forced his mouth to create the correct shapes and movements for English sounds, bypassing conscious translation efforts. He understood that why you should practice speaking went beyond mere fluency. It cultivated a mindset of resilience. Every stumble, every mispronunciation, became an opportunity for growth. He learned to laugh at his own mistakes, transforming anxiety into a fun challenge, and this positive attitude accelerated his progress significantly. The cumulative effect of his consistent efforts became undeniable. His conversations became smoother, his hesitations fewer. He no longer felt the intense pressure to translate every thought before speaking. English words and phrases started forming directly in his mind, flowing out naturally and effortlessly during daily interactions. He was now a true believer that the best way to learn English was an immersive, multifaceted approach. It wasn't about finding a magic bullet, but about combining various effective techniques into a personalized study plan that suited his learning style and goals for real-world application. His active engagement with Learn English Through Stories had not only improved his vocabulary but also instilled a deeper understanding of English cultural contexts. The narratives provided a framework for remembering complex phrases and idioms, making them accessible and memorable, much more so than simple flashcards ever could. He found himself naturally integrating phrases and expressions from the stories into his daily conversations. This organic absorption of language made his speech sound more natural and less academic. The stories weren't just for entertainment, they were powerful linguistic tools, shaping his conversational repertoire in profound ways. Leo even began to create his own short narratives, recounting personal anecdotes and daily experiences in English. This creative exercise served as an advanced form of English talking practice, forcing him to retrieve words and construct sentences spontaneously, solidifying his command of the language in various contexts. His transformation was evident to everyone around him. Friends and family marveled at his newfound confidence and articulate speech. He was no longer the quiet observer, he actively participated in discussions, often leading them with enthusiasm. His voice, once hesitant, now resonated with assurance and clarity. He realized that continuous listen and practice was not just for beginners, it was a lifelong habit for maintaining and refining fluency. Even as his skills improved, he kept listening to diverse accents and practicing new expressions, ensuring his English remained dynamic and adaptable to different situations. He started volunteering to help other English learners, sharing his own talking tips. He emphasized the importance of overcoming fear, starting small, and celebrating every tiny victory. His personal journey inspired many, showing them that fluency was achievable through persistence and the right strategies for effective speaking. He often told them, "Why you should practice speaking is simple: it builds bridges. It connects you with people, ideas, and opportunities. Without active verbal communication, much of the world remains inaccessible. Speaking is the key that unlocks genuine human connection and allows for true expression." He advocated for the English study plan for talking to be comprehensive. It should include listening for comprehension, speaking for production, reading for vocabulary and structure, and writing for clarity. All these elements combined synergistically to create a well-rounded and effective language learning experience for anyone. He particularly stressed the value of consistency. Small, daily efforts yielded far greater results than infrequent, intensive bursts of study. Regular exposure and application of English became his mantra, transforming language acquisition from a chore into an integral and enjoyable part of his everyday life. For Leo, the best way to learn English was personalized and holistic. He adapted techniques to suit his learning style, never shying away from experimenting with new approaches. He understood that what worked for one person might not work for another, emphasizing flexibility in one's study methods for maximum impact. He explained why reading is important by demonstrating how new vocabulary encountered in context became deeply ingrained. Unlike isolated word lists, words from stories carried emotional weight and situational relevance, making them much easier to recall and use appropriately in conversations, enriching overall expression. He illustrated how learn English through stories provided a natural framework for understanding idiomatic expressions and cultural nuances. Stories weren't just about plots, they were windows into different ways of thinking and speaking, allowing learners to absorb language organically, rather than through abstract rules. He recounted his experience with that very interesting story, how it became a personal project and how dissecting its narrative structure significantly improved his own ability to construct coherent arguments and tell compelling tales in English. It was a pivotal moment in his linguistic development, truly transformative. He showed how paying attention to how other people talk in English helped him refine his own delivery. Observing natural pauses, emphasis, and emotional tones allowed him to sound more natural and engaging, moving beyond mere grammatical correctness to truly effective communication with others. Leo's confidence soared. He no longer dreaded phone calls or presentations in English. Instead, he embraced them as opportunities to practice and refine his skills further. The once formidable barrier had transformed into a thrilling bridge, connecting him to a wider world of possibilities and interactions daily. He frequently reminded himself of the early days, the stammering and the fear, to appreciate how far he had come. This reflection motivated him to continue his English talking practice diligently, knowing that consistent effort yielded remarkable, long-lasting results and profound personal growth. His passion for language learning became infectious. Friends sought his advice, eager to emulate his success. He always emphasized that fluency wasn't about perfection but about consistent effort, active engagement, and finding joy in the process of discovery and communication with others. He became an advocate for active listen and practice methods, showing how merely hearing English wasn't enough. Learners needed to truly engage with the sounds, internalize them, and then attempt to produce them themselves. This active cycle was the core of his successful learning strategy. He emphasized that "let me tell you" talking tips included not just technical aspects but also psychological ones. Overcoming shyness, embracing mistakes, and celebrating small wins were just as crucial as mastering pronunciation or grammar for real-world communication effectiveness. Leo often said, "Why you should practice speaking is to transform yourself. It's not just about language, it's about courage, perseverance, and expanding your horizons. Every spoken word is a step towards a more confident, connected, and empowered version of yourself, ready for anything." His journey illustrated that an English study plan for talking must be dynamic. It should adapt as the learner progresses, incorporating new challenges and building upon existing strengths. Stagnation was the enemy of fluency, while continuous evolution fostered growth and mastery. He shared how discovering the best way to learn English was a personal quest, a journey of self-discovery. There was no single universal answer, but rather a combination of methods tailored to individual needs and preferences. This personalization made the process sustainable and enjoyable. He continually highlighted why reading is important for expanding not just vocabulary but also cultural understanding. Reading provided context for how language was used in different social settings and conveyed nuanced meanings, enriching spoken expression far beyond basic phrases. His personal experience with Learn English Through Stories showed how narratives made learning effortless and fun. Stories activated different parts of the brain, making information more memorable and allowing for a more natural acquisition of complex linguistic structures without explicit grammar rules. He fondly recalled that very interesting story that sparked his deepest engagement with English. It wasn't a textbook exercise, it was an emotional connection that drove his desire to understand and express himself more fully, proving the power of compelling content. Leo's transformation from a hesitant speaker to a confident communicator was a testament to the power of consistent English talking practice. He proved that dedicated effort, even in small increments, leads to remarkable progress over time, making fluency an attainable goal for anyone. He now seamlessly conversed with people from all over the world, effortlessly adapting his communication style based on how other people talk in English. His ability to understand and be understood across various accents and speaking patterns was truly impressive and effective. His English journey became a source of immense pride and fulfillment. He had not only mastered a language but had also developed invaluable life skills, resilience, self-discipline, and the courage to step outside his comfort zone. He was truly a changed person, all thanks to English. And so, Leo continued his daily ritual of listening and practicing, always learning, always growing. His story serves as a beacon for anyone struggling with English speaking, a powerful reminder that with the right approach and unwavering dedication, fluency is not just a dream but a tangible reality awaiting your commitment.